Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
You are about to participate in the most ambitious culinary experiment ever imagined.
This competition is going to test everything.
Adapt quickly to anything. I mean anything. The wildest day of your life starts right now.
Series premiere 24 and 24, Last Chef Standing. Sunday night at 8 on Food Network. Stream on Max.
Personally, I find it a little hard to get mad at the idea of millennials getting some sort of subsidy in life. After all, this is a group who will never be able to afford a house, is drowning in student debt, and can't even enjoy Harry Potter anymore. You can't spell millennial without 3 massive L's.
Welcome to Millennial, a podcast about the generation that can't be spelled without 3 massive L's. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Hey, I have 1 massive L in my name.
Yeah.
Should we change our names?
You said it. I'm glad you said it before
Andrew
I could.
can be Landrew and I'll be Lamela.
There you go.
Yeah. Though Laura starts with an L, so it really... You're our 4th massive L, Laura. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. You know, I don't think I've ever been anyone's 4th massive anything. So, so encouraging. But yeah, I wanted us to share that this week because I laughed out loud when I saw it on John Oliver's show last week. And genuinely, I would love to ask John Oliver if we can use that as our show's new tagline going forward. It feels very appropriate. So, you know, John Oliver, I know you definitely listen to this podcast. Let us know. Hit a pod up.
We should at least borrow it for maybe a t-shirt. I think we're due to do a new t-shirt for our patrons. So
I agree.
We need a good tagline like that one, maybe. And just nobody tell HBO. It should be fine.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
Please.
Speaking of the John Oliver-esque comedy shows, Laura, how have you been liking Jon Stewart's Monday Daily Show episodes?
Oh my gosh. It has been such a true return to form for him. He stepped back into that seat so seamlessly. It literally felt like Jon Stewart being the host of The Daily Show picked up where it left off in 2015. So I was just overall really excited to see that. But he's as sharp as ever. He's offering some pretty sharp political commentary that's getting him into some hot water on both sides of the aisle, honestly, which he's known for. And he's still an incredibly sharp interviewer who's had some really great guests on recently. I loved how in a recent episode, he had the head of the FTC on and explicitly called out, by the way, I wanted to have you on my podcast, but Apple told me not to talk to you. So at least in one aspect, he's pointing out why the relationship with Apple fell apart. I have a feeling that the other topic would be something that rhymes with Gina, as we know. Certain politicians like to pronounce it. But I don't know. I don't know if he has an NDA or something.
Well, maybe he just hasn't found an opportunity to mention the ask from Apple about China or AI, unless he's already mentioned that too. Because I don't see why he could mention this Lena Khan revelation and not China. This still seems like something he shouldn't say about Apple. You know, they didn't want me to talk to you, Lena Khan of the FTC.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And for that, I respect him. But yeah, I've so been enjoying it. And For anyone who doesn't know, I've been watching The Daily Show since I was 11 years old during Indecision 2000. I've been a huge fan of Jon Stewart ever since. So him coming back to The Daily Show was like a homecoming for me. And for him, I'm sure, more so. But I think for this generation who grew up with Jon Stewart, seeing him come back and seeing him knock it out of the park the way that he is has been really, really gratifying.
I agree with you. It seems like no time has passed. He fit right back into that role effortlessly. I've been really liking the Monday episodes from the perspective of being able to watch them on Tuesdays after we record Millennial.
Same.
I'm a little bit behind a few weeks, but I've been enjoying, what he's been bringing to the table. I think, like both of you said, he's just a fantastic interview and super sharp. So what's not to love?
Yeah. What was not to love about yesterday's total solar eclipse that crossed America? It took the country by storm. There was all kinds of coverage about it. And in light of that total solar eclipse that happened in the US for the last time until 2044, I wanted to talk about rare / once in a lifetime experiences that we've enjoyed or want to enjoy. And we can also talk about which might be overrated and what we'd like to experience next. So first of all, in terms of Monday's total solar eclipse, this was the second one in the US in as many years. The last one was more viewable from the west, whereas this one was more eastward. It drove up hotel prices. New York Times reported on this Super 8, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically a motel. They normally charge $95 for a room. The day of the eclipse, they were charging $949 for a room.
At that rate, I'm sleeping in my car and driving back home.
Right.
Yeah, just camp. Internet usage dropped by 8% during the eclipse, by the way, according to Cloudflare. One nice thing about these eclipses is that they are community events where you're all watching at the same time. Remember how we used to do that with television?
Yep.
It used to be so great.
It also encourages people to go outside, which a lot of us don't do as much anymore. We don't do as much as we should.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time that you saw people encouraged to go outside in the middle of the day?
Right.
Adults, too.
Right. Yeah, corporate America doesn't like that. Did you two watch the eclipse?
No.
I did.
Laura, you did?
I did. And honestly, I fucking love science and I love space. I think it's all super cool. I was really looking forward to this eclipse. And I was a little disappointed. Obviously, Atlanta was not in the path of totality, so we weren't going to get a 100% eclipse. But we were due to get like an 80 to 85% coverage. So I thought, okay, things will probably look distinctly different from the last time I saw a solar eclipse back in 2017. At that time, I remember the quality of the light got all weird. The shadows on the ground got all weird. There were all these weird crescent-shaped shadows everywhere. And I was like, cool, it's going to be like that, but amped up. So it's not going to black out or anything out there, but it's going to look really, really cool. And all it did was look like it was 6 o'clock in the evening for about 5 minutes. And then it went back to looking like it was 3:15 in the afternoon. So I was a little bummed because I was expecting something more spectacular than what I saw. Now, I will say I did not get the glasses in time to actually be able to look at the sun. And I did not want to irreparably damage my eyes. So I did not look directly at it. I just chose to kind of observe the changes in the environment. And there just weren't very many. So I was super bummed.
You weren't tempted at all to take a little peek?
Here's the thing.
Bareback?
Here's the thing that's scary about it, because when you have that voice in your head telling you not to do something. So I'm sitting there going, don't look at the sun. Don't look at the sun. So anytime I would glance around, I would feel my eyes want to look at the sun.
Right.
If I had allowed it, they would have. But I had to be really intentional about being like, no, stop it. Don't look at it. And I did try to surreptitiously take photos of it with my phone without looking at what I was taking pictures of. So it meant the pictures all came out really janky and weird. But even then, I was super paranoid about accidentally looking at my phone screen while I was taking the picture, because apparently that's bad for your eyes too. So I think I did a good job about not taking a peek.
I took some peeks. I couldn't help myself. I did have glasses from the eclipse. No. I did have glasses from the eclipse last year, but I couldn't find them. I don't know where they went. I hope I didn't throw them out. That would be idiotic, because the glasses said on the side the dates of the 2 eclipses last year and this year. So it would have been stupid to throw them out. But I was driving at the time the eclipse started yesterday. So I decided to take a little peek here and there. I did it with one eye open, like just in case my eyes would be irreparably harmed. So I still had like a good eye. The thing is, you just can't stare into it for a prolonged period. So if you happen to look into the sun during any average day, it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure. It's just with the eclipse, people are looking into the sun longer, and that's when their eyes become damaged. Morgan, who's listening live, said she looked for a second and saw spots all day afterwards.
Oh, no.
I mean,
maybe the sun is stronger during the eclipse. Yeah.
Yeah. And it definitely is. I was actually reading about this on NASA's website, especially if you're in a region that is getting like a full or a partial eclipse. What happens is as the moon covers the sun, your pupils will dilate more as it's getting darker. So they're letting more light in. But because the eclipse moves very quickly, the sun is going to peek back out within a couple of minutes of the eclipse starting. And with people's pupils dilated, they're getting that direct hit of sunlight with their eyes wide fucking open. And I think that's where the concern is more than anything.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for
sense.
That information.
You're gonna
that's
burn all
important.
your, what is it, cones and rods or whatever they are in your eyes.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I mean, stuff like that could explain why some of us saw a gold dress when it was actually a blue dress many years ago.
I saw gold. Did you stare into an eclipse?
Well, I would have gone out to look, but California was so far removed from the path that it was going to take that it just didn't really seem worth it. Like we would have had less visibility than even Laura, 85%, 80, 85, I would have been out there too. So I feel,
Laura, I'm surprised you were expecting like the eclipse to do a song and dance for you. I don't get why you were like so underwhelmed. B, why didn't you have glasses with 80, 85%? Like you can go to a food store and buy them, I think.
Well, so lots of places sell those glasses, but most of them are fake. Like you have to get ones that are ISO certified.
Oh, ISO, what is that?
Regular sunglasses, for example, are not something that should be worn to look directly into an eclipse. And there are a lot of these eclipse glasses that are not legitimate, and they're just knockoffs and a cash grab because it can be kind of hard to get the real thing, especially as demand increases around an eclipse. So even NASA was cautioning people, hey, you need to make sure that the glasses you're using are ISO certified. Otherwise, they're not legitimate and they're not actually protecting your eyes as much as they should. So I was like, I got to live the rest of my life with these things. I already have to wear glasses. So I'm not trying to add anything else challenging there. But I was expecting there to be more environmental signs of an eclipse happening, because the one in 2017, which was not 80 to 85% coverage here, actually had more of a noticeable impact.
Have you left your review for the eclipse yet on Google Maps? Like you should give it like a 2-star review this year instead of the 5 stars you gave it in 2017.
I know, right? Right.
Much clips.
Did y'all see the meme I sent you where somebody had that beautiful picture of the eclipse happening, and then as soon as the moon is gone, it's just replaced with like a "would you like to leave a tip" screen?
Yes.
It's so funny.
That was genius.
No tip for the eclipse.
But By the way, there were a lot of people whose eyes were hurting after the eclipse. This story went viral at multiple outlets. People noticed that on Google, you can go into their trending page and searches for eyes hurt spiked during and after the eclipse. Now, I don't know what you're expecting to find when you search for that. After the eclipse, you know why your eyes are hurting. Everybody warned you, except for our last president. So I don't get it. But the glasses, when you do wear the glasses, you can really see the eclipse, and it is very cool. And that's what I experienced last year.
There's also a lot of arts and crafts, really easy arts and crafts you can do to like get around not having glasses. You can make a viewfinder really easy with like a cardboard box and some aluminum foil.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to go out there and raw dog the eclipse, as Andrew said. So
it's just like looking into the eyes of a basilisk. You just got to set up some boundaries between you and the eclipse and you'll be good.
Yeah. I think
saw
people
somebody
just get excited. Like, I swear to God, I saw this like on, because everybody on TikTok was like posting about the eclipse. I swear to God, I saw this guy take his glasses off and then forget to put them back on. So I'm sure that person was Googling what happens now.
Yeah. Am I gonna die?
Yeah. Or if they were in like the total eclipse path, maybe forgot to put them on before the moon started moving again. So
my brother actually traveled to Texas from Florida for this total solar eclipse yesterday. And I saw a couple photos from where he was. And it was very cool how the area just turned dark around him. And I'm sure y'all have seen some of these videos at this point. I don't know if I really need to see this experience. Like, I think it's pretty cool, but the videos and the photos do it for me. So I personally don't think I would travel. Laura, are you now more keen to travel for total solar eclipse?
No, I don't think that I would travel very far. I might drive a couple of hours if it was happening close to me, but I don't know that I would make that kind of trip. I mean, he's in Central Florida, right? To Texas?
Orlando.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he went to what? Austin?
Somewhere in
guessing.
Texas,
Okay.
near where his girlfriend lives, I think.
oh, well, that's a vested interest aside from the eclipse. So
Well, exactly.
True.
Yeah.
But that's at least a 10-hour drive. I ain't doing that.
Yeah. No, I think they flew. But still, yeah, I would
okay.
not fly for the eclipse. Now, in terms of the next total solar eclipses around the world, the next one will be on August 12th, 2026, and it'll start above Greenland, then strafe the west coast of Iceland, and move along the Atlantic Ocean and over Spain. And then a year later, August 2nd, 2027, another will skirt the Mediterranean coast of North Africa, then cross Egypt and part of the Arabian Peninsula. Then number 3 will arrive on July 22nd, 2028, and that will cut across Australia and the southern tip of New Zealand. So, if you missed out, if you were like Pam, who didn't even bother to step outside, and now you're feeling all the FOMO because the TikTok videos just aren't doing it for you, there's the next 3 you can travel for.
Well, I want to...
Lauren, Pam, no.
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm still alive in 2044, that one's passing through California. I'll pop up to check it out.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the news reports about that, and I was like, that's actually not that far for me to drive up to Reading or near Reading. And it's like 4 hours, 5 hours.
That's how I feel too. If it's within reasonable driving distance, I'll go.
It does look cool.
It does
And
look very
like you were
cool.
saying at the top of the segment, it's a community event. So you're experiencing something with other people.
And I think this one got a lot more attention compared to last year's. I was trying to figure out like why. This one seems to be getting a lot more. I guess it's because it is the last one for 20 years in America.
Mhm.
And with it being more eastward, those are more densely populated areas. Whereas the one last year, like part of the path was in southern Utah, which isn't exactly densely populated.
Related to the moon, I guess we should congratulate her. I don't know if y'all heard, but she is getting her own time zone.
Oh, congrats. Who decided that?
Cute.
The Biden administration, he's actually signed an order directing NASA to work with the 36 members of the Artemis project, which includes the United States, to come up with a coordinated lunar time, which will be known as LTC. And this is really a way to make it easier for the Artemis partners to be able to pinpoint the things that they're seeing and know what things are happening at the same time, because of course we have time zones here on Earth. And then the moon actually spins a little bit faster than Earth. So their days go by a little bit faster than ours. And it can make it really hard for people across time zones to coordinate on things like flight paths and monitoring footage and being able to know that they're doing everything at coordinated times. So
that's pretty cool.
I know, it's fucking crazy to me. Like, I don't have bodily autonomy in the United States, but the moon is getting a fucking time zone.
Yeah. I wonder if they're consulting the aliens on this too, because I feel like they have a vested interest as well about what time it is on the moon.
Right. But it is really cool. Like, I saw that and I was like, at first I thought it was an Onion article. I was like, the day after the eclipse, all of a sudden it's being announced the moon is getting her own time zone. Like, the solar eclipse was such, a success, had rave reviews, the highest ratings ever. We're giving her her own time zone.
Yeah, well, and actually, to your point about it potentially being a joke, the BBC News article is from 7 days ago. So that's very close to April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. So anyway, let's talk about other rare events that we might be interested in or ones that we've seen. First of all, this one isn't actually... it is a natural occurring event, but it also isn't. Manhattanhenge. Laura, you have experienced Manhattanhenge.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Tell us what this is.
So it is also known as the Manhattan solstice. It's this thing that happens twice a year where around the winter and the summer solstices, where the sunrise or the sunset will align with the east and west streets on Manhattan's street grid. So what that means is you can walk up and down multiple city blocks and look towards either the sunrise or the sunset, depending on which it is, and you will see it perfectly framed in the center of the end of the block that you're looking down. You walk up the next block, you see the same thing. It's trippy because you would expect normally that as you're walking, you wouldn't see the sun on every block that you walk up, but there are a number of blocks where you do. And it's just because of the unique angle and the unique time of year at which, the sun is rising or setting. So it is kind of cool. And people, again, speaking of it being a community event, you will see a lot of people just walking up and down around Midtown, looking down these streets, and these will be like large crowds of people crossing back and forth on crosswalks to be able to look down to the end. And then everybody goes out and gets drunk or whatever afterwards. So it's just fun.
Gets drunk for it.
But it is
any excuse
cool.
to drink. Yeah.
It's like a really random thing that happens.
It is getting a lot of attention. The every year, more and more attention, probably over the last decade, I guess. To me, it kind of reads like Manhattaners are just like so desperate for sunlight, which can be hard to get in the city, that it's exciting from that angle, which is a little sad to me.
You think New Yorkers don't get sunshine?
Well, but if you're walking around in like lower Manhattan, it's hard to get sunshine.
I will say I never sunburned in New York when I was there.
Yeah.
And I think my theory was because most of the time you could walk in some kind of shadow because of the buildings.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah. But I saw this too when I was out there for the summer, and I didn't even realize it was a thing. It was just like I used to walk around a lot and just like think when I was in New York City, because I didn't really know very many
walk
people.
around and think.
And I would just like think and be alone in my thoughts and just like contemplate my life choices. And just like you stumble across these big groups of people. I was like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's Manhattanhenge. Just like, what is that? So it was kind of, good community building exercise, I guess.
Yeah. To this point, I actually have my own Manhattanhenge in my house. So my house, no, I'm not joking. I got a link. Click the link. My house faces west-east, okay? And twice a year, just like Manhattanhenge, the sun, I'm in the desert, okay? There's not a lot of trees blocking the sun. The sun shines directly through the back door, which is a floor-to-ceiling sliding window door, and hits the backside of my front door. It shoots through the house and hits the front door perfectly. And then as you can see in this photograph, You're laughing, but I get excited about this twice a year.
It's mostly your emphasis on photograph.
I think this is cool. But so you can see here my shadow perfectly cast on the front door. There's a certain time where the sunlight will perfectly frame the door. I just think it's the coolest thing in my own house. This is what happens when you work from home and you're lonely.
Yeah. So wait, how did you discover this?
Yes. Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson was visiting. Well, so this happens at like 6:30 a.m. and I'm just walking with my coffee into my office. And I'm like, whoa, look at that. Huh. And that's it.
And you verified that it only happens
twice a year.
You're lying. There's no way.
No, I'm legit.
Maybe
what do you mean?
You should start charging admission to Homehenge.
I'm legit not lying because of the sun. Because of the sun, the way it rises, the angle it's coming up in the morning, it shoots through the back door and onto the front door. But because it's a narrow area where it could make it all the way through the house, it only happens twice a year.
I see. Okay.
It's like 2 week-long spans each year. But yeah, it's not every day. Homehenge. I'm selling tickets now for the fall 2024 cycle as well as spring 2025. So if you're interested, let me know, everybody.
I don't know, Andrew. It sounds like you have something in common with New Yorkers.
Yeah. A henge. I'm not even joking right now. I think this is very cool.
It is
Sorry
cool.
if I'm not explaining it correctly.
No, it is cool.
I also think Laura and I have to like experience it to really truly understand how cool it is.
It's true. So I'll send you a link to the Ticketmaster page after
Sounds good.
the show.
What about the friends and family discount? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a promo code for you guys.
Okay.
One time I'll send you these pictures, then you'll fully understand it. I was out front in my front yard and I took, with the front door open, I took pictures of the sun coming through the back and shooting right out the front.
That is pretty cool.
That does sound pretty cool.
Okay, all right. We'll look at some other experiences we're fascinated by in a moment after this quick break. In mid to late February every year in Yosemite, there's a waterfall called Horsetail Fall, and it can look like it's on fire thanks to the angle of the sun hitting it at a certain time of day. And it's turned into a very popular event in Yosemite. I have not seen this myself in person, but I would love to. But it's gotten so popular that now Yosemite requires reservations to visit the park on the days where this is expected to occur because a lot of people want to photograph it. So that's another example of like a rare-ish event that he really got to plan ahead for. Some other annual events, the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C., that's a big deal every year.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I missed them by 1 week and I was so sad.
Aww.
Yeah, because I just thought we don't really get seasons here. I think it's a bigger deal too if you don't get seasons, kind of like watching the leaves fall.
Right.
On the East Coast. So it would have been cool to see.
Yeah, my college roommate was from California. We went to school in Maryland. So she definitely had the same takeaway. She was really excited to come to the East Coast and experience seasons. When I was 18, I was like, what are you talking about? Don't you have seasons in California? But I understand now. But yeah, I mean, the cherry blossoms are stunning. Because I lived in the area for a few years, I did get to go a handful of times. And it's just so beautiful to be walking around the mall and have these cherry blossoms just pinking up the whole place. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, speaking of plants, had to mention super blooms, and I feel like these are more appealing to those who live in the desert because you're desperate for color and greenery. But vibrant flowers against a typically dry landscape can be beautiful to witness, and these super blooms, they spread really far and wide. This is actually around super bloom season right now in California and Nevada. I know I've seen some reports from Death Valley about super-ish blooms happening there. Pam, do you ever try to check these out around California?
I do. I love super bloom season. And also, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but a couple times driving home to San Francisco from LA, I've caught super blooms on the 5, and it just looks like the hillside is on fire because you just see like completely orange hills because of the California poppies that just grow wild. But yeah, this is stunning. And obviously, if you go check these out, please don't kill the flowers.
Yeah.
This natural vegetation. Don't do it for the gram. I mean, like, do it for the gram, but do it respectfully, please.
I'm glad you bring that all up because I took a quick trip to LA recently, and along the 15, things were looking very green. And I have this running joke with Pat at this point where I say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The desert has never looked greener since I've lived out here. Like, there's been a lot of rains over the last couple of years, and the desert is green compared to how it normally is. And this drive to LA recently, I was seeing a lot of flowers along the highway in remote desert areas. A lot of different colors too. And you mentioned not stepping on the flowers. There was one point along the 15, somebody had pulled over and was trying to pull up some plants to take home. I almost pulled over and wanted to beep at them. Like, I was so pissed off.
This
was like a blooming cacti, huh?
Oh no.
I
don't know
know
about that, but I was going to say wildflowers are so easy to grow at home. Y'all get a mix of seeds, wildflower seeds, native to your region because if not, they're invasive. And just toss those suckers everywhere. I planted some 2 weeks ago and they're so big.
Ooh, I love that. Send us some pictures.
Please do.
They haven't bloomed yet, but I'll send you the like how tall they are. They're pretty. It's impressive even to me because I really thought they weren't going to grow at all. I've never bought like cheap seed packets. So grow your own wildflowers, make your own super bloom. If you want to destroy things, you can destroy your own backyards or yards or anything like that.
I hate it. You know, speaking of these natural phenomena that are just so like awe-inspiring to behold, I really hate it when people interfere with the environment. They don't understand that this is like a look, don't touch situation. Back when I was in college and I studied abroad in Costa Rica, I did a border run to Panama for a weekend because I needed to renew my tourist visa. And that's kind of how that goes down there. And there's this gorgeous beach in Panama called Playa Estrella, which is a starfish beach. So the water is like super calm. It's this beautiful turquoise blue. And there are hundreds upon hundreds of these gorgeous, bright orange and red starfish there. And the amount of tourists who will just go into the water and pick them up and take them out of the water to take pictures with them or try to take them as souvenirs is disgusting. People don't understand that those are living things. Yes, they're beautiful. Take as many pictures of them as you want, but don't disturb them.
Well, also wanted to mention the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
They can be visible year-round. They're most visible from fall to spring. That one just seems surreal. It is surreal.
I saw the Northern Lights on a flight.
Oh,
really?
From San Francisco to London. And we had taken a red eye and I took a sleeping pill because I can't ever sleep on flights. And it was going to be a really long flight. And I guess I fell asleep before I closed the window and I woke up because it was bright outside. I was like, why is it green? And then I realized that it's because of the Northern Lights.
And this wasn't the sleeping pills making you hallucinate?
No, it wasn't because I asked the flight attendant.
Just kidding.
They're like, yeah, because a lot of people weren't awake. And I don't think that they were like as visible as they can be sometimes, because if not, I've heard sometimes they'll make announcements on the plane. They'll break the piece of the nighttime so people can like experience that. But yeah, it was so cool. I would love to see them in person, like actually where they occur. But over on a flight was also pretty cool. So you might get lucky.
Cool. Also wanted to mention Halley's comet. This will actually next be visible from Earth in 2061. So this one, we still got quite a lot of waiting to do. I know.
Yes.
I know.
I think so, right?
Well, this one article I pulled up is kind of funny. So what can we expect from Halley's next appearance 38 years from now? With the current average life expectancy for Americans close to 79 years, if you were born after 1982, you have a better than 50-50 chance to witness Halley's return in the summer of 2061.
3 L's, but we might still see Halley's comet.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
38 plus 35. Oh, that's so sad. I'm going to be 73 when Halley's comet
That is older
next
than
comes.
you wanted to live, so.
Yeah. Okay. Between the nephews and this, maybe I'll have to extend my lifespan.
Are you bumping it up again? Because you've already bumped it up once.
What did I say last time?
Originally,
It used to be 50.
yeah, you were like, by 50, I'm out. I don't need this anymore.
I really
You
don't
bumped
think
it
I
up
said
to
50.
60. Yeah, you did.
You did. Because why would we both remember if you
Check
did
the
it?
tape. Check the tape. 50 sounds suicidal. You all should have called the police on me for a wellness check. Let's say 78 is sounding good.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's a big jump.
That is a big jump.
I mean, that's basically average lifespan. So you did
And
it.
that'll be
Look how
5
far you've
years
grown.
after Halley's comet. So like Halley's comet will be like kind of like a retirement
a cherry
party.
on the cake.
Yeah.
You'll have had time to digest it and really like understand your place in the universe.
Yes.
And you could go peacefully.
Do y'all ever find it trippy to think about things like this that will happen either when you're really old or when you know you're going to be dead?
Yes. Trippy and sad. The thought that we could potentially not be alive for the next sighting of Halley's comet, or like even like you think about our parents, the next total solar eclipse 2044.
Yeah.
Sorry to be grim, but that's 20 years away.
I actually think about it the opposite way. I think about how many people have witnessed the same things that we're witnessing that are like dead 1,000 times over.
Yep.
And that to me is trippy. Just thinking about like, also like, I don't know, there's there's like this weird sense of peace knowing that we're all just like looking up at the sky and like oohing and awing over the same thing as somebody 1,000 years ago did too.
That is cool. That is cool.
Yeah. Certain cycles never get old. Like the human experience.
They must have thought that, like, this is why you kind of can't, well, you can blame people for not, agreeing with science. But on the other hand, you kind of think like, this is why some people are super superstitious. Like my mom was telling me too, that when I guess there was some kind of, it might've been a lunar eclipse when she was pregnant with me and my grandma wouldn't let her out of the house without a safety pin on, because she was so superstitious about like the bad juju around eclipses when you're a pregnant lady.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
different stuff like that.
Wild theories about eclipses. Like people were thinking this was a sign of the rapture. Like there's all sorts of theories.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. There was an earthquake in Manhattan. Then we had this total solar eclipse. And then the moon gets its own time zone. It feels apocalyptic if you really think about it.
Maybe people are onto something. Well, outside of natural events, another once in a lifetime event, like this is a bucket list item for me. I'm a big fan of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've said it probably on the show a few times at this point. I would love to go to a major hot air balloon event like the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. That's the big one in America. Seeing so many hot air balloons gather and rise into the morning or evening sky amongst the desert landscape. Colorful balloons too. Just, that just looks so cool. So that's a special event that I myself would like to attend. Now, on the flip side, Times Square for New Year's Eve. And I feel like a lot of people do consider this a bucket list type of item because obviously New Year's Eve is a very special event and Times Square is the iconic place to ring in the new year. However, waiting there all day in winter to watch a ball drop seems like a lot of pain and effort for not too much, for something you can watch from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
Plus, you can't move. Do you know what I would prefer? If I had to choose, I would rather go for the Thanksgiving Day parade because it's only a half day. It's also iconic. You get to see Santa at the end. It's great.
Ring in the holiday season, the Christmas
Right.
season.
I mean, people have to wear diapers when they do
That's what I'm saying.
New Year's Eve in Times Square. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah. I'm only going to wear a diaper or stand on my feet all day to wait for an event if I really want to be front row at a particular artist's concert.
So, Bruce.
And Bruce, yeah, I actually really wanted to do that this year, but I wasn't able to get pit tickets. But I would have done that this year. I wouldn't have worn a diaper, but it would have been a pain to like plan that. That's a whole day thing you got to commit to. And then by the time the show starts, your legs are tired and your feet hurt.
Something else I wanted to call out is, historical events. So I was thinking about presidential inaugurations. Specifically, I went to Obama's first inauguration in 2009, and it was, simultaneously one of the most amazing things I've ever gotten to witness in my life, and also the thing that broke my cold tolerance for the rest of my days, because standing outside in DC from like 2 a.m. until 2 p.m. in 7-degree weather was fucking rough, y'all. Being 19 is amazing. Like, I could not do that now. The only reason I could do it then was because I was a teenager who just had way more energy than I think I realized at the time. And when you're that young, you're built like rubber too. Like, you can go a long time on fumes. Right?
Yeah.
Like 35-year-old me could never, but I'm so glad that I was there.
That is a good pick and just a good theme in general, historical events. I wouldn't want to go to January 6th, but it's interesting to say that you've been there. Or I wouldn't want to have witnessed 9/11 myself, but it's interesting to say you happened to be there the day it happened, or you could witness it from afar. Is that fucked up to say? My point just is like, you could say you've been to one of the biggest days in our country's history.
Because you are history.
Yeah.
Then. You are like living history.
Yes.
Living it and also living history.
Right.
Oh, that's so cool. Sorry to cut us off here. Artitude in the Discord is saying that they saw the Blue Angels in Seattle. I love the Blue Angels. They're headquartered in Pensacola, Florida, and I try to see them every time.
Oh, are they
that
really?
I'm down there? Yeah.
Are the Blue Angels part of the Air Force?
Yeah, Navy.
They come to
Yeah.
Fleet Week in San Francisco every year, and it's really cool to see them doing their stunts over the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff like that.
Okay.
Honestly, when I was a kid, I desperately wanted to, because I don't think they do this anymore, but you used to be able to buy very expensive tickets to ride with a Blue Angel. And
that would be cool.
Oh, I wanted to do it so bad as a kid, but I didn't have an appreciation for G-Force. And I think I probably would have gotten more than I bargained for. So...
Well, how about you two? I mentioned the Balloon Fiesta, but is there a bucket list or once in a lifetime event that you two want to experience?
I would really love to sit in the Devil's Pool at Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. It is so cool. You can find lots of videos of people doing this on YouTube. It's certainly not anything that's off the beaten path or anything like that, but it's essentially this really cool natural rock formation right at the top of Victoria Falls that creates a place where you can sit on the edge of the waterfall safely, because it's like a chair that allows you to sit at the top without going over with the water. But you're then able to actually look down over the side of this waterfall in a way that you would never be able to otherwise. And you also get to sit there and just take in this scenic view that so many Americans will probably never get to see in person, and be in such an iconic place and one of the natural wonders of the world, I think, in a really unique way. So ever since I saw video of people doing this, I've always wanted to. So we'll see. I'm going to try.
It does look pretty cool. The photos trip me out, though, how you could sit right on the edge and not like fall or get pushed in.
Yeah.
I actually saw a few people mentioning this as we were talking about it, but I also put down that I would really love to see the monarch butterfly migration, but specifically I would love to visit the sanctuary in Michoacan, Mexico. That's the state where my family's from too. So I've never visited for a number of reasons, but yeah, it would just be really cool to experience that and then just also have ties to the area as well.
Yeah, Meg mentioned that too. Chloe mentioned the Northern Lights. Liza also brought up the monarch butterfly migration. So thank you all for sharing those. All right, well, we have some dreams to pursue before the next total solar eclipse here in America. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to discuss Quiet on the Set, the dark side of kids' TV, that documentary that aired and that brand new episode that came out over the weekend. We will be right back.
So we wanted to talk about the Quiet on Set documentary that premiered over on Max a few weeks ago. Everybody has been talking about this, and we had thought maybe that we missed the boat, but they actually released a bonus 5th episode over the weekend. So this is the perfect time for us to chat about it. For anybody that doesn't know what this is for whatever reason, this documentary explores the dark history behind some of Nickelodeon's most popular kids shows. There was a lot of misconduct and a lot of crazy stuff that was going on over there. And so to get started, because I'm sure that some of the other aspects of this documentary will come up organically as we discuss it, I wanted to kick things off by talking about our initial reactions for the original 4 episodes. Were you all surprised by any of the revelations that we got during this series, or was there anything that particularly shocked you the most about watching these episodes and hearing these accounts from these kids, or now adults, but used to be child stars or people that were working behind the scenes?
I think what shocked me the most is how quiet all of this was kept, how, especially things with Brian Peck, the dialogue coach who abused Drake Bell and others. The fact that this person was known to have participated in this behavior, but was still allowed to work on sets of other kids' TV shows is astonishing to me. The John Wayne Gacy connection was also a really wild turn that I was not expecting to come out of this documentary. Like, the fact that this guy was just like casually pen pals with a serial killer and had a self-portrait of him hanging in his garage that he just like showed to the kids.
That should have been a huge red flag.
Right. And nobody said anything. I think it goes without saying that it is unfortunately a reality that a lot of child actors have had extremely traumatic experiences coming up in Hollywood. And I think looking at some of the more prominent Nickelodeon stars like Amanda Bynes, who has clearly been through it, I think we all knew that something happened, but I certainly didn't know the extent of it. And it was just shocking to me that it wasn't more common knowledge before now.
Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting parts about it was combining these stories being told with clips from the actual episodes that aired. It really tied it all together to make a really damning case against the 2 people who were at the focus of the documentary. Pam, you mentioned that everybody was watching this. It did strike me how many people, this docuseries went viral, for lack of a better word. It's just everybody was watching this, and I think it's because so many millennials were glued to Nickelodeon growing up. I was one of those people. I was exclusively Nickelodeon. I never touched Disney Channel. I rarely watched Cartoon Network. I was just all in on Nick for some reason. I don't even know why I didn't try to watch others more often. So yeah, it was very upsetting to watch. Nickelodeon had kind of this canned statement that would air at the end of each episode in the docuseries. I guess they don't want to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to be making changes because we acknowledge we have some problems behind the scenes. I hope there will be changes behind the scenes at all of these networks because you have to think this is unfortunately happening pretty regularly.
Yeah, to Laura's point, I think there were 2 separate cases that they brought up in the original 4 episodes of different people being either on sex offender lists or having been convicted that still got hired on other kids shows. And so that just goes to show that it really is about who you know in Hollywood. And I think that everybody knows that there are a lot of really poorly kept secrets in Hollywood, meaning that everybody in the industry kind of knows who's kind of a creep, but the general public maybe does not know unless you're living in that world. And it's just really sad to know that so many people were protecting these awful humans for whatever reason. Some of it is power dynamic, but you think about the people that were above these people and probably knew it was happening and didn't care to step in. And that's just awful. And I know that Meg Q also was bringing up the interviews with Drake Bell's dad and how tough those were to watch. I think that to me was the most harrowing because it really kind of showed that even though parents are trying to do the best they could by their children, even the most caring, attentive, non-stage mom or dad parents were kind of silenced or told that they were crazy for even bringing up weird behavior.
Yeah. Well, his dad, I think it was somebody who worked on all that, suggested to Drake Bell's dad that maybe you're just homophobic because he's just gay. So maybe you're just uncomfortable with that, but he's not doing anything inappropriate with your son. Was like, well, actually, that's exactly what ended up happening. And it's interesting, too, because he, at least from the documentary, it doesn't seem like he blames his parents at all. And that he really saw Brian Peck as a master manipulator. And I think when you have, young child actors and parents who have no exposure in the industry and don't really know what to look out for or how to best advocate for themselves and their children, it's unfortunately a breeding ground for that kind of thing.
Pam, you mentioned power dynamics and why nobody above Dan Schneider would have done anything. Dan Schneider was one of their top creators. They wanted to look away because they wanted Dan Schneider to continue popping out hits for them. So that's probably why this, he was able to run free and do whatever he wanted.
For a long time, too.
Yeah.
So Riley's also bringing up Jeanette McCurdy's book. I don't know if either of you have read it. It's really good. The audiobook is great, too. She narrates it. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died. And, she's probably the most recent bigger star to speak out about Dan Schneider specifically, but she's not the only one. And it is kind of crazy to think that it took something this big for people to finally really pay attention on a larger scale.
And for Dan Schneider to respond to the allegations, because like you said, Jeanette published that book a couple of years ago now. He didn't say anything, as I think was brought up in this new episode 5 of Quiet on Set. But now he's talking, and it's only because of how popular this docuseries got. But still, what he's saying isn't good enough. And he's making up bullshit. They aired some of the clips from this one interview he did post docuseries in episode 5 of this docuseries.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So like you were saying, that premiered this past weekend. So it's available now to stream if you have Max. It's part of the Max Discovery merger, this ID content. So I wanted to ask you guys if you feel like this 5th and final part was necessary, specifically because obviously they did it as a result of just how popular and viral this series went online.
Yeah. So I went into it skeptical if this episode would be worth watching because, to your point, this episode got tacked on due to the popularity. And sometimes when a new episode or season does get added on suddenly, it feels like they did it just to pull in some more viewers and capitalize on that popularity. I remember Tiger King did that extra season and it was not good at all. That's just one example. But episode 5, I actually thought was really good. It had some great new interviews with Brian and his mom, for example. They were talking together on camera for the first time, and it got emotional for a few minutes. Drake Bell did a new interview in which Soledad O'Brien asked him why he decided to come forward now for this docuseries. I didn't think he had the strongest answer as to why now, but he did try to address it, which I'm sure was a big question for a lot of people. The only part of this episode 5 that I found was a little unnecessary was the new All That cast member who came forward because he didn't have much to add. Now, it did start to work better when he got together with his 2 other former All That cast members, and it was clear they were all still tight. So it was nice to see that they were still a unit, a family unit, if you will. But yeah, overall, I was actually very pleasantly surprised by episode 5, and I would recommend people watch it because you do get some more out of it.
You definitely do get more out of it. And I think it's great that there was an opportunity for people to elaborate on some of what they shared during the main 4 episodes. I thought the way this was shot and the way it was packaged was weird. It literally felt like, was this supposed to be a special that aired on another platform? Because
like a 2020.
Yeah, it had like commercial breaks built into it that they didn't take, but it would be like, coming up next, Drake reveals da 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 da, and then it would cut to the next shot, and it just made me wonder, was this some kind of CNN special that was supposed to air somewhere else that they were like, we got to repackage this and make it the 5th episode,
or they would
Quiet
go
on Set.
Coming up next, exclusive never before seen footage that we didn't air. And I was sarcastically going to Pat during times like that. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness. Because it did have a weird tone. It was like an event based off of the docuseries.
Yeah.
And they did kind of build up the mysterious special guest a little bit to make us believe that it was going to be somebody bigger, like Amanda Bynes coming forward to tell her story. And I feel bad saying that because not to invalidate the cast member that did, but it was, and I understand marketing plays, but I think it did fall a little flat when it was, to Andrew's point, somebody that didn't really, it sounds so weird to say, like, didn't suffer as much as the rest of them, but like didn't really feel like it fit in line with some of the other confessions that people were making or coming forward with.
Yeah. And it also, unfortunately, cheapens the experience that cast member was trying to share for the first time, to build it up as like, this is, the final, the final boss, if you will, of this entire scandal. And to have it be something that is quite a few levels removed from some of the other disturbing content that was discussed on the show, I think cheapens the experience as an audience member, but also cheapens him being able to tell his story, because his story did need to be told. That was also inappropriate behavior. But I think just the way that they structured it, to your point, Pam, kind of made it fall flat.
I agree with
ultimately.
That. I did really like how Giovanni Samuels and Brian Hearn, who I mentioned a couple minutes ago, did address some of the comments that Dan Schneider made in his interview responding to the documentary. Like that was the part where I wanted to like pull out the popcorn, because it was basically like a gossip session. Like, no, this didn't happen. No, that never happened. They basically were saying that Dan Schneider was lying during this interview.
Well, and it's clear that he was.
Yeah. I also can't believe he had the audacity to contact Giovanni Samuels and ask her to release a statement of support.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah, you like me, right?
I'm so glad she was like, no.
Drake Bell said at one point, nobody else has come forward to apologize since the documentary has aired. It was very interesting to see them discussing the fallout from the documentary series.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's really surreal as people who grew up with the Nickelodeon ecosystem in our living rooms every day to be seeing some of this stuff played back and realizing how creepy it was, even if we didn't understand it at the time. So it's definitely a very jarring feeling, I would say, overall, to have taken this in. But I think it's really important to have watched it, especially as kids who grew up watching Nickelodeon, so that we can understand the real consequences that exist for not handling these types of kids shows appropriately and creating physically and psychologically safe working environments for children.
Was there anything that you both wished that they would have expanded on or included a little bit more of? Because I feel like they gave us a good broad overscope, but it also still felt like they left some stones unturned, specifically in some of the earlier episodes. Like they had that whole segment with the mom of the girl who was corresponding via letters with another PA. And it was like, did the daughter die? Like, it was like the way that was set up was so interesting. Yeah. And I don't know if it was like a little too convoluted for me. I think they should have been a little bit more clear.
I agree. It honestly, with that one, and again, I don't know this for a fact, it just was an impression I got. It almost seemed like to me that maybe the daughter didn't really want anything to do with this, but the mom had shared that she really wanted to be a child actor and she wasn't allowed to. And I know there's been some speculation that maybe this was the closest opportunity she had to do something on camera. And that's not to say that she doesn't care about her daughter or that she wasn't doing the right thing. But you could definitely tell that she felt a lot more compelled to be involved in this than her daughter did.
Yeah.
Which was a little uncomfortable, honestly.
Yeah, I think it just seems to me, to get back to your question, Pam, there were a lot of stones left unturned. Like, it seems like a lot more people could be coming forward if they really wanted to. And maybe there will be another season of this docuseries because of that one new cast member who showed up in episode 5 was willing to come forward now. Maybe others will be in time.
So taking a little bit of a step back from the specifics of the actual docuseries here, obviously millennials are known for being very nostalgic about the pop culture we grew up with. That's very much a pillar of our identity and our personality, if you will. So I wanted to ask you both if seeing revelations like these coming out, does that taint or ruin the good memories you have of these shows? Or are you able to compartmentalize them and still kind of look back fondly on the series that we grew up with?
I can look back fondly in part because remember Snick? Saturday night, the Saturday night television block on Nick.
Appointment viewing.
Yeah, me and my friends used to get together and watch in our respective basements. We'd take turns going over each other's houses to watch Snick. So stuff like that, the social experiences, I think, are really special and will never be tainted.
Yeah, you know, I don't think we're strangers to having our youthful nostalgia tainted by present day actions of creators. We've definitely been there relatively recently, and we're still able to find enjoyment in Harry Potter, right? And we don't have to talk about that, but that's kind of the big example that I look to anytime something like this happens. I still have a lot of really positive memories of Nickelodeon. and being a kid and wanting to rush home just in time to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I loved Stick Stickly in the afternoons. I don't know if you remember him. I also loved all the cartoons. And, I think most of the problems, at least that we're aware of, were really concentrated to Nickelodeon Hollywood. And I would just say that Nickelodeon and all the productions that it houses are a little more vast than just Hollywood. So it was still a special experience as a kid to feel connected to a TV network that was made for me. I think that was a relatively new thing when we were growing up. And particularly because I was born in Orlando, I actually got to go to Nick Studios at Universal Studios multiple times as a kid. That shit was so fun. I did that studio tour so many times.
That's very cool.
Yeah, no, it's a ton of fun. And yeah, I have positive memories of being a Nickelodeon kid. But this part of it really hurts. I'm not going to lie. Because I loved all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But looking at the pickle stuff now, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember finding it funny as a kid. It just felt kind of weird and random.
Or if you did find it funny, you were looking at it through the eyes of a child, right? Like if somebody's getting like something squirted on their face, you're not going to be like, oh shit, this is not appropriate, because we were also, 8 years old. So it's like, haha, it's just funny that somebody got something squirted on their face.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the fact that we're no strangers to things that we enjoyed as kids getting tainted, Laura, because the last question here I wanted to ask if there were any other examples of things that we enjoyed in our childhood that have since kind of been tainted for us, either as a result of revelations coming out or even like you coming across excess knowledge later in life. A big example for my childhood is The Wizard of Oz. I loved this movie growing up, and just like being a big fan, I always wanted to like learn more about like the behind the scenes stuff. And I didn't realize, until I started doing that, maybe like 9-10 years old, that there's like a lot of dark history involving that movie. Not limited to, just like the mistreatment of another child star, Judy Garland, who was severely mistreated as well on that set for a number of reasons. But yeah, I think that like in my brain, I try not to think about that because that's still like such a comfort movie for me. But even sometimes now as an adult, if I watch it back, or if I catch it on TV, it's usually on during the holidays. Like in the back of my mind, I'm always like, oh yeah, like there's supposed to be like some crazy like thing happening in this scene that you won't notice unless you're really looking for it and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson are two of the bigger ones that come to mind for me. And I was also reminded today about the Michael Jackson documentary that's on Max called Leaving Neverland. Remember that? I mean, that was
a tough watch.
That was a tough watch, and that was a big deal when that came out. And that renewed a lot of interest around Michael Jackson's problems. I mean, I remember a lot of debates around that time about why are we still listening to Michael Jackson's music? Why are we still getting enjoyment out of it? And I mean, even if you look at Quiet on Set, Drake Bell has been in some hot water too in recent years. And maybe it stems back to what happened to him on the Nickelodeon set. And if so, that's really unfortunate. But he's been charged with inappropriate interactions with a minor.
Yeah.
So it's almost like in the case of Quiet on Set and Drake Bell, there's almost like this cycle going on where you want to root for him, but you can't.
Yeah. Well, the reality is that kind of behavior doesn't usually exist in a vacuum. Usually people who are doing that are, unfortunately people who were abused in one way or another themselves. And that doesn't justify it or make it okay. But it is a pretty well documented cycle for sure. Yeah. I will say for me, this isn't necessarily a childhood thing, but I have long been a fan of Alfred Hitchcock, and I love his movies. brilliant filmmaker. But it's only been in the last decade or so that I really became aware of how horrible he was to his leading ladies, and that a lot of the terrified performances that you're seeing on screen are driven by the fact that he led an incredibly abusive environment on set for those women, and that it adds a layer to the experience that makes it a little hard to watch. I can still enjoy the films as art, but it's just different now, I think, watching those things and having that knowledge.
Yeah, this is unfortunately a fact of so many pieces of pop culture that we consume. And I mean, you have to think that even stuff we love and adore right now, and there's nothing problematic associated with these things. One day we're going to find out that there was some problematic things going on behind the scenes.
Or even people too, which is why, like, it's okay to stand, but you should just take your standing with a grain of salt, because you don't really know these people in real life. You don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. So,
and unfortunately, in some cases, we'll find out in 10, 20 years.
Yeah. And then it's like that one gif of Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model, where she's like, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Yeah. And I mean, what else at this point, what else can you do besides bring attention to these issues and hope things get better in Hollywood and elsewhere? I think that's the only like actionable item we can do. We can't tell people stop listening to Michael Jackson, stop watching Alfred Hitchcock. We just have to keep talking about the issues that are running amok and hope that all the attention gets people to stop or act better, do better. Nickelodeon. All right. Well, Laura, what is coming up in After Dark this week?
Yeah, so we haven't done an Ask Us Anything for a while, so we decided we wanted to do another one, but we specifically themed it around podcast behind the scenes questions. So we asked our patrons over at patreon.com/millennial to pose all of their most burning questions about the behind the scenes environment at the various podcasts we've hosted over the years. So we got several really good questions that we're going to be going over, and we may grab a couple from the Discord too, depending on what comes up. We'll see.
Yeah. Questions like, how confident do you feel with the paywall? Do you ever worry a family member will sign up and listen?
Nervous laughter.
Right.
Somebody else was curious about the dynamics between Pottercast and MuggleCast. Somebody asked us, are we happy how the Patreon is performing financially? So we'll address all this in After Dark. After Dark is part of Mega Millennial, which is the main show, ad-free with After Dark attached to the end, so you get all of our best stuff in one audio file every week. If you're a Spotify user, you can tap into the show and then click the Patreon banner and pledge that way. And you'll then be able to access the Patreon audio benefits like Mega Millennial and variety shows and the planning meetings right within Spotify.
Don't forget our other Patreon benefits, including live stream access, our monthly Zoom hangouts where you can shoot the shit with us and listeners for an hour each month, posts where we gather your feedback for reading on air, and much more. And if you want to support us elsewhere, we have the Apple Podcast subscription, which gets you access to Mega Millennial. Both Apple Podcasts and Patreon offer affordable looks at our benefits thanks to the 7-day free trials and annual subscription discounts.
And also, one last way to financially support us is by going to mugglemillennial.etsy.com. We have Millennial 2020 t-shirts. They depict 2020 on fire. They're a very cool shirt design. We also have adulting planners, which come with a set of Millennial stickers. And these are all available at mugglemillennial.etsy.com. Remember, these are extra inventory we have from Patreon gift mailings over the last couple of years. So once they are gone, they are gone. Don't miss out. Time for some recommendations. What's yours, Laura?
Well, I know that we're coming up on the middle of April and Mental Health Awareness Month is not until May, but I want to get a jump on it and recommend taking a mental health day when you can, if you can. It's so worth it. I actually did it today because I was definitely feeling like, oh my God, I have a million things going on all the time and I just don't think I have the energy to do anything today apart from record Millennial. So I absolutely took a mental health day, and it was such a great choice. So highly recommend you doing the same.
Well, we love this for you, Laura. I hope you treated yourself to some good video games, too. I know you've been obsessed with my video game recommendation, Balatro.
Oh, my God. That game.
I get texts from Laura about it, like, every day.
That game has me by the fucking throat, y'all.
Okay, damn.
I got up, I think I told you this, Andrew. I got up to round 21 purely based on leveling up the playing of straights. We're talking about poker hands, not just random straight people.
Straight people.
And I leveled up those multis. I leveled up everything that had to do with a straight, and I was fucking killing it. And then I got to a boss where it was like, we're not going to give you anything that you could use to build a straight.
Yeah.
And you haven't leveled anything else up. So die.
That's why I got to be careful to not put all your eggs in one basket. But I do a similar strategy as you. Just hope for the best.
I've learned my lesson. But God, it's such a good game.
Well, since we talked a lot about travel this episode, I wanted to recommend Travel Pro luggage if you're looking to upgrade or grab new luggage before the summer season starts. Specifically, I have the Flight Crew 5 vertical rolling overnighter, and my stepmom actually got this one for me. She's a flight attendant, so you know this shit's good because it's exactly the same one she uses. And yeah, this is just great, really sturdy suitcase or like luggage in general, and a lot of different flight crews use it. So if you want to treat yourself, highly recommend. And that also means, because Flight Crew uses this brand, that the carry-on sizes will fit the majority of airlines. So I never have to worry when I take the one that I have, which again, if you're curious, is the Flight Crew 5 vertical rolling.
They must
overnighter.
be super durable if a flight crew is using it all the time.
Yeah. My God, it's so smooth. And you can have it roll next to you. You can roll it behind you.
Love
it
that.
stays upright when you stop. There's a
That's nice.
laptop case. There's like a waterproof sleeve in there. It's great.
A waterproof
One of my favorite
sleeve
suitcases. I
for
wish
when
it was
your plane door falls off while it's raining.
For example, if you pack your own shampoo, like Laura knows, and it explodes, it's just going to explode in that little folder. So it's not going to get all your clothes dirty. But yeah, it definitely forces me to pack lighter than I wish I could. But that's also a good thing because I really don't need everything I want to bring whenever I'm traveling. So
yeah, that's me too. I'm like, I want all these options, but then you have to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Andrew's point, though, it's nice that you have one less thing to stress about when you're flying. Since you do have to worry, we all have to worry about, the plane falling apart.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. At least my luggage will be in one piece.
Yeah. When it falls to never mind. So
into the sea below.
You might have heard recent headlines that Spotify is thinking about raising their prices again. Apparently, they were happy with how people just rolled along with recent price hikes, and so they're going to do it again later this year. I want to recommend the Spotify Family Plan because despite what Spotify says, you don't need to live in the same house as the other people on your plan. I have tested this myself. Me, Pat, and a couple of friends who don't live with us are now on a family plan. 4 of us splitting a $16.99 a month subscription that works out to $4.24 per person. You can have up to 6 people on the family plan. That brings it down to $2.83 a month per person. That's cheap as fuck. Yeah. That's cheap as fuck.
Wow.
We do that.
I'm paying too much.
Yeah. So now that I know for sure that you can use this even with people who don't live in the same house, take advantage of this while you can. Hopefully Spotify doesn't screw with this. I have to feel like it's hard to figure out where you actually live when with Spotify, that's an app you take with you everywhere all the time,
Right.
Work, commute, all that.
Well, make sure you're following the show in your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. If you leave us a review in the former, we'll read it on air, especially if it's funny and topical.
To stay in touch with us, email millennialshow@gmail.com or use the contact form or confessional on millennialshow.com. Or you can reach out to us via social media. We are Millennial Show on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Threads. And over on TikTok, we are at Millennial Pod.
To buy tickets to Homehenge 2024, go to Ticketmaster.com. After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.